tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali. I'm attorney Zulu Ali on behalf of the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Dr. Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir. This week, like we do every Sunday, we'll be discussing important and critical legal issues affecting our communities. Our guest today is attorney Joanne Davale. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here with you and the people that listen to you every weekend. It's very important what we're going to be talking today.
Right. And so, yeah, we're definitely excited about having you here as well as your expertise. Just to tell people a little bit about yourself. You have been an attorney for 19 years and worked as a legal advisor for former governor in Puerto Rico. You directed the Natural Resources, Environment and Energy Committee in the Senate and practiced family and criminal law for about 10 years. You also volunteered with detainees in federal detention centers in Puerto Rico and had no status and started to get interested in immigration law. And then in 2009, you moved to California and continued the legal practice in immigration. And you started working with detainees, and you volunteered with different consulates and nonprofit organizations to assist the most vulnerable population. You've also been in Tijuana assisting deportees, and currently you have a solo practice in immigration as an immigration attorney doing mostly removal defense, asylum, and family-based cases. Right?
That's right.
So, I mean, obviously, one of this segment regarding immigration law, obviously, is a very hot topic to say the least, both politically, and it's really an interesting environment. And for me, the interesting thing about immigration law, and every week we're talking about different issues as far as the legal system is concerned. The interesting thing about the immigration law, at least from my perspective, and we'll get more in details about the different areas of immigration law and what immigration law, how it operates and what it actually is. But to me, I think that as far as the immigration law, I believe it is actually one of the most hypocritical aspects of our criminal justice system. And the reason that I say that is because, obviously understanding the history of our country, we realize that basically, with the exception of the Native Americans, we're all immigrants. At some point in time in our history, we've come from different countries and different backgrounds, and that's kind of the fabric of the American society. However, we've known that for many, many years, and especially in the most recent years, under the last few administrations, it's just been such a hot topic about the immigration law and implementing immigration law, and how we're really concerned about certain individuals coming into our country, which we know that's really important, obviously, to make sure that we have a secure and safe boundaries and borders. However, we also understand the fact that people coming to this country who are immigrants is pretty much part of who we are as an American society. And I know that obviously what people don't know, and I think that it's probably true, and you probably can touch on this a little bit, I do believe that as far as people being removed, and I practice immigration law as well as you do, there's just as many people, if not more people, that was actually deported during the Obama administration as there were as far as the current administration or even the Bush administration. So, obviously it's not like the government isn't deporting people. But you also have other things that have been under attack, like the DACA and those sort of programs. So I kind of want you to give us a little general idea about immigration laws generally and your take on the present administration and how it's handled the immigrations.
Yes, certainly, as you previously stated and correctly stated, United States is based on all our ancestors came from other countries. Unless you have a Native American heritage, everyone has someone that came here. Legally or illegally, they have come here to create this great nation. One of the concerns that I think most immigration attorneys has is the instability on depending on what administration is. And as you said, I don't think that any administration has pinpoint what you have to do in order to create proper immigration laws. The immigration laws that we have right now have a lot of flaws, and particularly they don't have the necessary tools to develop and keep the people that need to be here and take out the people that should not be here. Because I am on the belief that if you come here to this country, do things the right way, you should have the opportunity to stay. But unfortunately, our laws right now not necessarily works like that. The way the immigration works, if you happen to came here and somebody was nice enough to petition for you, you're going to be able to stay here. If you were not lucky enough, you were not able to be here. So it creates a situation where I think that both major political parties should be together to create a census of what they have to do in order to address the people that are already here, and then obviously work also with the people that want to come here, because that have been an issue lately with the current president wants to create a wall, and there are issues right now going on the border regarding the people that are trying to ask for asylum and they're returned back to their countries. And all those issues are very important also to address.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the issues, or at least one of the hot topics lately, has been the DACA program, which is, I think, and what does the acronym stand for?
That's the Deferred Action for childhood arrivals.
Right.
That's basically the kids that came here to the United States. Children, their parents bring them here, so they have no way of deciding, oh no, I don't want to go to the United States, I want to stay in my country, whatever your country is. They came here, they are successful, they go to school, they want to pursue careers and help to this country that many of them came as newborn. So for them, this is their country. And President Obama created this, given the facts that they were not creating factors and laws to protect these kids. So he created as an administrative order to allow these people to at least be able to study, go, and prosper in our country. But now, current president decided that that was not a priority, so he decided to eliminate it. And he has been going back and forward because right now they are accepting supposedly new application, but I am a little bit hesitant of those new applications.
So they're actually accepting new applications for DACA?
Technically, yes, but since the government has 90 days to fight that back, I am a little bit concerned, and I have explained people that come to my office, I'm willing to send the application, but you are aware that something happens in those 90 days, you may lose the money that you're investing. And this should not be the way. It should be like there is a decision that, and again, the thing is that the perception of the community is a little bit different of what the immigration laws goes. If to qualify for DACA, a person that just arrived yesterday does not qualify for DACA. So people think that people that are coming to the border, they're going to apply for DACA, and that's what DACA have to be eliminated. That's not the case. Other thing is that DACA won't be approved to someone that has certain crimes. So thinking that everyone gets DACA, that's also false. You have to comply. You cannot have certain misdemeanor, including a DUI. DUI, it's enough. One DUI is enough for you to be disqualified for DACA, or if you have DACA, to get it canceled or unable to be renewed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that one of the interesting things about, obviously, you talked about DACA, obviously, is for people who are children that have actually came here, or individuals who came here at such a relatively young age. I believe that the year has to be before 2006?
2007.
2007, and yes.
And they have to be 15 years or younger at the time of 2007. So if by the cutoff day, they were about to turn 16. Sadly, one gonna qualify, and the brother is not gonna qualify because the birthday was the day before. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. And sometimes the line has to draw somewhere, and that's how it is. So people that enter in 2008, 2009, and afterward, they don't qualify for DACA as it is right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's not as expansive as people might think it is. And obviously, the whole idea is I don't think that people understand how many individuals actually come into the United States at such an early age, and we're talking about as early as a few days old, and have actually been raised in the United States pretty much their entire life. Some of them have never been outside of the United States. I would imagine most of them haven't. And they sometimes they don't even speak the language. So if you take someone who's 21 years old, who's been in the United States their entire life, then all of a sudden they're trying to send this individual back to their country of origin. They don't know any other life. They went through school, and for the most part, they don't know anything else other than the United States, and that's the whole idea of the DACA. But what's also really important was during the Obama administration, he was trying to implement DAPA, which would have been similar for parents of children
that were born here.
Yeah, that were born here. Yeah. Which is important because there you're sending parents back to children who have actually lived, born here, or U.S. citizens, and then you're going to ship the parents off, And also, what's important is under both programs, or almost any program, it's almost never the case where these individuals are, people will talk about criminal aliens, and to qualify for any of these, you have to not have been committed of any serious offenses. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the misunderstanding of people. And it says like, oh, you want to keep criminals, but again, for DACA, you cannot have one more than a significant misdemeanor, and it's a very high standard because, as I said before, people say, oh, DUI is just the concept of DUI is that it's not that big of a deal, which it is. But somebody that have one DUI does not qualify for DACA. So, and even if a person has just one significant misdemeanor that can qualify him for DACA, they have to take overall what they expect from this kid. If this kid has been successful in school, if this kid is gonna be a member of the society and the community and is going to contribute, because they can deny DACA as a matter of discretion, even if you qualify for all the other things. So it's not as simple as, oh, these kids that have DACA is everybody else. No, they have to fill out certain standards, and it are very high standards. So.
Okay. And also, and I kind of want to, at least from my own personal perspective, is I believe that the immigration debate, I think in many ways, is a debate that, because immigration laws is extremely complicated. I mean, even for someone like yourself or me or anybody else that's been practicing, I mean, I think that we find yourself, something new is always coming up, and there's different and various interpretations of the INA code, or various, circuit decisions, and even circuits have made decisions that vary from circuit to circuit, so it's extremely complicated. But what I think happens with the immigration debate is I think it's a very political, it's used oftentimes as a political tool. And I think that the fact that people don't understand immigration laws, it's easy to use it as a way to position yourself from a political perspective to, use it one way or the other. So oftentimes the narrative that they create is like, for example, building a wall, right? And so basically people say, well, if you're going to build the wall and you don't understand the way that immigration laws work, for some reason people think, well, you're going to build a wall and you're going to keep all the illegal immigrants out of the country, and then we're going to be safe,
Yeah, because this is a concept of safety and that's something that, and in me particularly, I have been doing at some point I did a lot of studies when I was doing criminal law about criminal activities, and actually I met Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know if you remember him, which was one of the serial killers, and he wasn't, Hispanic or immigrant. He actually was born and raised here from parents from here. So the concept of criminalization of immigrants, that has been one of the issues. There's a lot of people that have committed crimes, and everybody has to pay for the dues. That's not a problem. But the concept that because somebody is here undocumented, which is properly how we address these people that come for different reasons. People come because they want a better life, they want peace, they want safety, because some countries are at war, some countries are going through a lot of political problems that affect the people that live there. And the United States has been recognized nationwide that we are a country that are open to these people that needs us. But right now, what we are focusing, and like you said, the press sometimes serves for political agendas, trying to criminalize these people that are not criminals and that are taking jobs from people, which are not true. Years ago, there was raids going to the strawberry fields, and California do like 80% of the strawberries that are consumed in all the United States. And they tried to hire people from here, but nobody wanted the jobs. So they have to go back, and they have to step back, the immigration officials, because they were like, okay, you're going to have to pay $10, $15 for a box of strawberries if that's what you want, because no one wants those jobs. So saying that, the press goes and criminalize that if you have somebody that is undocumented, you're not going to be safe, and that's what you need the walls, so these people don't come. Like, they're monsters, and they're not.
Yeah, I know. I think that one of the things that kind of, is, that's kind of like the looking through the lens of, having blinders on, so to speak, when it comes to trying to address the immigration issue and the immigration debate. But I think the bigger issue with the immigration debate is that basically, as the United States is us being the superpower and us being kind of the leader in the world on humanity and other issues, that, you cannot, on one hand, be the leader in the world on issues of human rights and other issues, and basically, get your hand involved in the international community. But then on the other hand, kind of be closed-minded and say you're going to close your borders. It really doesn't operate that way. And I think that ultimately what happens is that, the reason why America is the nation it is because it does open its borders, and it does invite the best and the brightest in the world to come here and contribute to our society. And some of the most significant individuals that we've had in our society, and some of the best citizens that we had in our society, some of the best soldiers, some of the best Marines, some of the best airmen, some of the best sailors, some of the best people who have been involved in medicine, involved in law, involved in all aspects of society, have actually been individuals that have come to this country from other places. So sometimes I think that we kind of like lose our identity and kind of like not really look at it from a practical perspective. I don't think that we really don't look at the fact that what makes them, if it wasn't for our immigration laws, if it wasn't for the fact that we basically, we think about what you see when you come to America from Ellis Island, and what it says. That is who we are, and that's our identity. So, in other words, when you begin to start changing who you are as a society, you actually make yourself a more dangerous society. I think that sometimes, when you begin to start trying to put yourself in a situation where you operate in this vacuum and you don't want anybody else to come into the country, actually you become more, it becomes more dangerous than it does anything else. Because, and I want you definitely to chime in on this, but I think that what happens is that when you begin to start studying the history of great nations or empires and superpowers, most superpowers do not fall at the hands of an enemy. It isn't through military power or military might. Generally, societies or great empires fall from within.
Within, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And what is happening is that we don't understand how dangerous we're making things for ourselves. It's just like the former Soviet Union. I went into the Marine Corps during the Cold War, during the time that it was, it was Russia, right? And everybody thought that, they used to make movies about how Russia was going to come to America, and, they were so powerful. And then overnight, they fell. there was no issue of someone going to Russia and taking over the country and, doing it, or some terrorist organization. None of that happened. It just one day you woke up and the former Soviet Union fell from within. And oftentimes that's the fear that I have for our country. When we begin to start hating each other for the values in which we were built to become a nation, we're slowly but surely going to begin to start eating ourselves up from within. And I don't think that we truly understand that. I think that basically number one, we don't understand how young of a nation that we really are. We're a very young nation in comparison to some of the other so-called great nations or superpowers. That's number one. And then when we write the world history books in a century from now, what are they going to say about our country? Are they going to look at us as one of those nations that could have been because we never really progressed and developed and basically became the nation that we could have been? Or are we going to be a country that's finally going to wake up and try to be the leader and the example of humanity that we're supposed to be?
Yeah, and the problem is on this, like you said, we are supposed to be one of the examples of how human rights have been developed and how we, at some point, can criticize other governments because they do this or that to their own people. But we are treating our own people because, as we were talking before, the DACA kids maybe were not born here, but they are our people. Those are people that have been in our school, that are doctors, that are attorneys, that are hard worker teachers, that want to stay here, that want to help to this nation. But the factors that are affecting now is that creating chaos inside the United States, creating the facts that these people that are not the same as us, and that include the broad of what many communities are doing. Like you have seen before, that this person calls on the university, she calls security because she thought these two people didn't belong because they look different. And we are a nation created by different nations. Mm-hmm. We are a nation created by people that have their own culture and grab our culture and create what we are right now. And it's very serious because, as you said, immigration is very complex, and instead of thinking about creating a wall and separating us from the rest of the world, what we have to create is a more common sense immigration law that allows to process these people that need to come to the United States for whatever reason, whether they're asking for asylum, whether they want to have an opportunity to work. There are people that will work here for a little bit and go back to their countries. Nobody's stealing anyone's job. Like the perception, and I hate every time that I hear that because no one is stealing the jobs. You go inside and you see how many times there are a lot of employment and people don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. People want to be. And other things that is very important, and I wanted to bring it out because I hate every time that says, oh, they come and they take all assistance from the government. Immigrants don't take assistance from the government. They are not allowed to. Mm-hmm. The immigrants and people that are undocumented doesn't qualify for food stamps, doesn't qualify for medical services unless it's an emergency. They don't qualify for many things that they think that they do. Mm-hmm. So they're coming here to work hard in the majority. They're good and they're bad. Mm-hmm. But in the majority, these people that are here and that are trying to come to the United States looking for a better life, they just want what everybody wants, a better life, the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness wherever in the world that will be, and the United States is a good place to look for that happiness.
Right. You know, and I think that that's the false perception that is often given out to the majority of the public, is that you know, you have criminals and you have people going to come in and going to create some type of chaos or blow something up, you know, and that's what a lot of the campaigns, you know, basically, you know, put out to the public to make them. It's more of a scare tactic, so to speak, you know, to kind of pass these laws. And so the statistics on on how many people who comes here and works and are successful is not given out to the public. We hear about the criminal side of it. We hear about, oh, somebody's going to come across the border and they're going to blow something up. But then when you look at the great majority of the immigrants that come over here, they're hardworking citizens. They become hardworking citizens and stuff like that. But also, a good point that you brought up was the fact that they don't qualify for certain types of benefits that's offered because they work. And so that's the false perception that is given. So
Yeah, and not only because they work. The people that come here, if you don't have a real social security, you are unable to receive any assistance from the government. You can't. Even if you want to, you can't. That's the fact. People that receive food stamps is because the food stamps are for their children that are born here that are U.S. citizens.
Exactly.
But the person that is undocumented doesn't qualify for those things, and that's what they're trying to make people believe. I read sometimes hate emails on Facebook, and I'm like, why people are believing this? Because they hear someone and they create it. And if you go to statistics that you were saying, look at all the mass murder here in the United States.
Yes.
The majority, more than 90%, which is a high percentage, are born and raised here
exactly.
with no, like they says, oh, my family was born here and here and here. No, they're mostly here. Yeah,
Exactly.
they have been, I'm not saying that undocumented people have not commit crime. That's not correct. But the thing is that they're criminalizing all of them when the fact is that, yeah, there have been criminals between them, but that's not the majority of them.
I mean, I believe that most of your well-learned politicians and leaders and those in power who do not have good intentions know that. I don't think it's really a secret. I think that a lot of times, it's kind of like a code word when you start talking about immigration. So in other words, I think that the fear is that, the demographics of the world is changing, or the demographics of the country is changing. As the demographics of the country change, the political power changes, the voting power changes.
Yes.
And you're going to see different individuals who would normally not become, in nationwide elections, who may be voted in the office, would otherwise not be voted in the office, if it's not for the immigrant community, or those we perceive to be immigrant community, whether you're talking about first or second generation, because obviously these individuals, when they come to the country, they have children who are born in this country and they're U.S. citizens. And I think that when you began to start seeing a shift in the political the politics, at least in the last presidential election, really, President Trump did not become a leader or start showing some promise in the polling until he began to start making statements about immigrations. When he says, his whole idea of saying we're going to make America great again, building the wall, and even going as far as saying that I believe that someone who's not legal and has a child born in this country, he wants to make a law. At one time he had made the statement that individual would not be considered to be a citizen. It was really like code words, because I think that we don't understand the significance of Barack Obama's presidency. Whether you like Barack Obama or not, it was really significant from a nationwide perspective, because no one, at least for me, I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in the 60s. And, having an African-American president was like a pipe dream. And I believe that when you began to start seeing someone like that become the president of the United States, primarily based in large part on a immigrant population, and when I say immigrant population, I'm talking about U.S. citizens who are not considered necessarily to be like the Asian community or the Hispanic community who voted heavily for Barack Obama, then now what we're seeing is that going to happen again? Are we going to start seeing a power shift that is related to the fact that we're allowing more immigrants to come into this country? The voting demographics is going to change, and we're going to see a different America, right? And so I think that what's happening is that it's not really people aren't sincerely concerned that immigrants are going to be. Nobody can. I mean, maybe you have people who are that not intelligent, But we know that that's absolutely not true. And it's hard to believe that individuals really believe that, especially those who are in power and those who are responsible for creating that narrative. They do not believe that. There's no way that you can make me believe that someone is not intelligent enough to know that these individuals who are coming to this country are all coming to be rapists and murderers. That's just not true. So what's happening is that we're just seeing the immigration politics are using immigration as a political way of trying to get people to vote for certain individuals so that they can kind of change the demographics of the way they see things going. They're fearful of what's happening in our country, and maybe we're beginning to start seeing. We have if I'm not mistaken, the most recent Supreme Court justice is Hispanic, correct? You know, those are things that was you never saw. I mean, what was the likelihood of those things happening? We're starting to see things changing and starting to see people becoming more representative and becoming more of a global community and actually moving forward as far as being a part of the global community and maybe being a leader in the global community. And that's what I believe the reality of it is. And really, as we're talking about the details, I believe that it's kind of like, you know, over and over and over again, we know that we talk about the same thing, but we know that that's not really the basis of why these individuals are attacking the immigration policy. It is just a political move and people that are fearful of what's going to happen to the political landscape of this country. And if we are not willing to become more aggressive in becoming involved in the global society, we're going to find ourselves in a very bad position because someone is going to start taking. I mean, we have individuals who are leaving this country to work abroad as well. We have a lot of Americans go abroad to start working. You know what I mean? And if we want to begin to start taking the position that we don't want to be involved in this global landscape, then it is going to make us much more dangerous, or things much more dangerous than it would be of our fear of people coming across the border that are going to do all these bad things to us.
I agree.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you were saying earlier about, you know, here in the United States, we basically pride ourselves on, you know, human rights, you know, protecting people's rights and, you know, protecting life. And, you know, recently we heard about the caravan that came over from, you know, El Salvador, Honduras, and, you know, they're at the border who's actually seeking political asylum, you know. And the thing about it is they have no chance of going back because if they go back, they know they're going to suffer some consequences for going back. And so they're here trying to do the legal way, you know, and to have them to sit and wait for such a long, and I know it's a process, but the processes can be very long and grueling, you know.
Yeah, and the worst part when you're bringing it out for the people that are seeking asylum is not that they have to wait. I mean, if the meantime that they're waiting and they're outside, that's fine.
Yes.
But the problem is that they come, and one of the things that I did like a year and a half ago, I volunteered in Dilley in Texas, which is a housing project, not a housing project. Mm-hmm. It's actually a detention center for children and mothers that come here. Mm-hmm. And then they go through hell and back. But, you know, they're putting in a situation that is kind of a torture because they come here to the United States, mother with kids that are running the violence of countries like Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. Honduras is one of the deadliest countries to live in the world. And instead of they're doing the right thing. Hey, I'm here to the United States. I need asylum. Okay, sure. I'm going to put you here. And I'm going to freeze you almost to death because the temperature is 30 degrees with your baby. And I give you a bottle of water, 8 ounces, and try to manage that with your kid for the whole day. So what's going to happen? Many people are going to say, oh, man, I'm not going to continue risking. I'm going to go back and I die on my country. And then transfer them to another place that is like a dog pound. That they treat them like they're dogs. They look like a cage. And if you're good and strong enough, then they pass you to this other facility, home facility, which again is still a prison because you cannot get out. You know, and you, instead of giving the humanity that these people need, go through the process, do the interviews, give them the opportunity, But no, you put them in detention centers like criminals when they are not. They are just trying to get a better life, to escape from persecution, to escape from domestic violence, to escape from so many horror stories that you hear every day. You could put them in detention like criminals.
Right.
You know, and that's the problem. My first contact with immigrants was precisely into the detainee context, and it's very sad. It's very sad seeing a person that has his newborn in the courtroom and not being able to touch it. And he hasn't done anything wrong, but he cannot touch it. So it's just the humanity. We are losing that part. The United States are losing the perspective and seeing these people as they are aliens, like they call, but you are treating them as not humans, and that's very sad. I see people that comment, "Oh, we have to save the dog," which I love dogs, but then you criticize and you agree on having human beings in these deplorable situations, which is wrong, completely wrong. So, I mean, we as society has to work. In the meantime that they do a real immigration reform, we have to work around and I'm trying to help these people and not seeing them as criminal and not seeing them as a threat, because they're not. A threat is any person that is bad. It doesn't matter if he was born here, was raised here, his grandparents came in the Mayflower or whatever. A bad person is a bad person, and it's not has to do where they come from. That's the most important part.
Yeah. You know, I had read earlier about just the different things that individuals that can apply for, you know, upon, you know, coming into the United States, and one of was family reunification, political asylum, but also one with job skills or work skills that can help or benefit the United States. And I think that's one of the things that's very big here in the United States, as far as like you was talking about the strawberry fields and stuff like that. The population of workers, I mean, and hard workers, you know, that's been working for years. And I think that when you know, create something to, okay, let's say we're going to deport them, I think, you know, like you say, a lot of stuff is going to, you know, increase in price wise, you know, because the workers, you know, are immigrants, you know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that it's crazy. One of the things that kind of struck a chord with me, of course, when you start talking about detention, you know, how they take individuals, and I think people probably don't know how the immigration detention system work. I mean, it's very complicated as to whether an individual has to stay in immigration detention or not. But in many of these cases, what happens is that you're taking, like she was talking about, someone who may be a father or a mother who's never, you know, been involved in any criminal activity a day in their life. And they might be actually in the same facility that an individual who might have just got out of prison for murder is in. And they treat, I mean, they're in these detention facilities, and, you know, I know, you know, personally from my law enforcement experience and also being a criminal lawyer, how, you know, you got this prison politic thing going. And they do the same, and these people are actually put in situations like that, and you know, held in these detention facilities with individuals who have actually, maybe even in some cases, you know, when they have the contracts with county jails where they're in the same facilities that people who are serving time for committing criminal offenses. I mean, so it's really horrific the way in which they kind of treat these individuals who are basically coming to the United States for nothing other than just seeking some sort of freedom, which is the history of our nation. And to allow someone to have to stay in a detention facility away from their family just for that reason seems to be anything other than humane. You know?
One of the worst things is that people don't know that somebody that comes to the United States seeking asylum, this is a just my luck situation, because it's just your luck who's going to be the officer that's going to see you. Because if you have this compassionate officer, they may put you in ankle bracelet, they can put you in alternative to detention programs that you report, or they visit you to your house, and you're going to be at least, you know, free in the society. But if your luck is not good, you're going to be put in detention. And people that come with no criminal record with no issues. Many of them has never been in the United States, has no contact. They are just trying to get freedom that they don't have in their countries, has to wait at least 6 months, detained for nothing, for doing nothing, just for us to be safe from the barbarie that is going on in their country. And that's awful that we are in that position. And then obviously they have a parole where the ICE officer that is assigned to you can't give you a reasonable bond. Well, a reasonable bond of $25,000 for someone that just came to the United States from El Salvador, from Nigeria, from whatever country, it's not gonna happen. People coming here because they want to have freedom, because they want to ask for asylum, and instead they are being put in a situation as Mr. Ali was saying, they're putting in a situation as worse than a person that is criminal, because somebody that is accused of murder has a reasonable bond. And one thing that people don't know, when they give you $25,000, it's $25,000. There's no 10% like in criminal matters. So in criminal matter, somebody that is accused of murder can get out with less money than a person that just came to the border asking for asylum, when there are alternatives to do that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that are broken in our system, because there should be regulations on how you manage that type of situation. But economics goes here. You know, the money that they pay to these companies that are in charge of the detention facilities for immigrants it's out of control. So ICE officer they have orders to pick up people that are doing nothing. I have right now a person that she was doing nothing. She was following everything. She was a witness against a smuggler. She was following all the rules, and they decide, oh, we want you in detention now. And guess what? After a year and a half doing everything that they told her, they put her in detention for what? There's no reasoning. When you ask, there's no reasoning. I said the money that they're paying, almost $300 a day per person. So imagine the money so they see them also as an economic factor. Okay, I'm gonna put them in detention. Two things are gonna happen. My friend or the owner of this that contribute to me is gonna make a lot of money with these people, and at the end, some of them are gonna be so broken that they're gonna ask to leave, because for someone that has never been in prison, getting to a detention facility broke them. And many people says, I want to go tomorrow. I want to go now because I can't stand this. Why? I haven't done anything wrong in my life.
And there's no uniformity either as far as the way in which they do. The bonding system is just out of control, because you can have, there's no, like in criminal court, obviously there's a bail schedule. So if you are accused of a particular crime, then this is what your bail and bond is going to be. But you can have two people with entirely similar or the same situation. One could have a $2,500 bond, and the other one could have a $250,000 bond. And there's really no filter, no oversight with that. I mean, it's just whatever that person feels like that day. There's a standard, but the standard isn't necessarily, there's no bond specifically set for, a person could have no criminal record, and they say, well, I believe you're a flight risk because you don't know anybody here in the United States. And then it could be $500,000. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. And what is always crazy for me about people who are fleeing persecution is that, just imagine that you left your country fleeing persecution with nothing except the shirt on your back, and you come to the United States, right? Then imagining that you have to go through a court process to prove that you're fearful of going back. How easy do you think it's going to be to prove that it's going to be dangerous for you to go back? You see what I mean? I mean, to me, it just seems like, if you're, it's like they expect you to give, like if you say that you have been a victim of some sort of brutality, they might ask you for police reports. You just left El Salvador with nothing but the shirt on your back. You don't know anybody else. You just made your way here. What is the likelihood that you're going to have proof of any of those things?
Or who in El Salvador are going to be,
right.
in their right mind to try to go? You have police brutality, and you're gonna go to the police. Oh, I just want the evidence, that there was police brutality on my cousin or my brother or my dad, so I can send it back to the U.S. Sure, that you're gonna get it.
Right.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that's very unfortunate because again, it's just I always say this is like press your luck. Let's see who's your judge.
Right.
Let's see who your ICE officer is. Let's see in what mood they are, because I have seen in a courtroom waiting where one person with 4 DUIs get a bond just because the government doesn't have the file on that. And we know because I have been listening to them discussing their case while I'm waiting. And the other person that has no crime has 0 bond because they don't have tie to the community.
Wow.
And then you said, okay, which one deserved the bond? But then that one that got the 4 DUIs and got bond, what's going to happen? He's going to tell everyone that you can get out with 4 DUIs, which is not right. They're not going to be able to get out. And I don't think that someone with 4 DUIs should be out either. But that's regardless. It's just your luck.
Right.
So
In the moment the government didn't have the file, they decide to agree on a bond, and poof, you got a $10,000 bond. And then the other person that goes with everything, and this is the proof that I have been a hard worker. Yeah, it happens to be that none of my kids was born because I decided not to have children. So you are not going to give me bond.
Yeah. And the eligibility, and that also what's interesting about the eligibility for relief. A person with 4 DUIs has a better chance of staying in the United States and getting a green card than a person that has 1 arrest for possession of a controlled substance, right?
Correct.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So so that's even a crazy thing when they, so I mean, it's way out of control as far as what what's the jurisdiction of the court. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason, and it's really just so unorganized and just completely crazy the way that the immigration system works and the way that we go about dealing with the people who are undocumented.
And in regards to the immigration laws, I'm not very versed on that, but I was wondering whether or not, I heard that they're hypocritical. I heard that they're not, they're contradictory. But what in regards to other immigrants, maybe from Haiti, maybe from Saudi, I mean, does it apply? Does those rules apply across the board?
Well, the reality is that, for example, when you're asking asylum, you hear a lot in the street, oh, if you're from Mexico, you don't qualify for asylum. I was like, no, that's not right. I mean, you qualify for asylum. Any country can qualify for asylum. You just have to follow what the rule says if you're going to be persecuted because of your race, your political opinion, your nationality, or because you're a member of a particular social group, which is a whole other story. But it doesn't. The problem is that also I have to say that in that area, some people don't know what to do. There are other people that advise them to file asylum when they are not clear what they are requesting. But when they go in front of a judge, and I have to say that we are blessed in Los Angeles, at least that's my opinion, because we have, in general, fair judges. There are 1 or 2 that, you're like, oh my God, that's the one that I have. But in general, they are. But if you see across the nation, if you are from Mexico, you are from certain countries, you are denied. They don't even care to read. And sometimes it's like, oh, but what it is, and you can hear judges that says, but it's from Mexico and it's from Salvador. There's no war anymore. I was like, yeah, sure, there's no war anymore, but you'd have to read the reasoning and why this person qualified. So certainly, unfortunate, depending on what country you are already in disadvantage because there are some perceptions that if you are from certain countries, you are not going to qualify for asylum, which is not true.
Well, I mean, what's crazy about, the way that you have to, going through immigration courts and a lot of it has to do with, and it's similar to really, to be quite honest with you, in many other areas of law, but especially when it comes to immigration, sometimes it's not necessarily the person who is able to be the most successful may not necessarily be the person who is the most deserving. So in other words, as I say, I mean, the possibility of someone like, for example, I used to, especially early in my career, represent individuals that were from Somalia, and, there's a lot of, you can't get anything from Somalia. At least I don't know if it's changed, but when I was doing it, it was really just a country that was completely just ruined, right? And the individuals, I mean, even their personal information, I mean, they all would have the same. They don't know really, because of the calendar year, they don't really know their birth dates, and sometimes language barriers. I mean, these guys would come here and they would not have anything really to support their claims. However, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know what is the chances and likelihood of someone from Somalia, at least, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s, to have a problem if they went back to their country of origin. But people were, it was difficult. Those were very difficult cases, because all you had was the individual's testimony, and it's an adversarial proceeding where the government is looking for any kind of discrepancy to discredit the individual. So it could be, like, for example, when they got here, they would say that their birthday was January the 1st, 1978, and then they would change it because they can't remember, because they don't have the birthdays like we do.
And the last thing that happens a lot, and it's unfortunate, because the other things that we have issues is with the interpreters. Even though that the court offers interpreters, not necessarily are the best interpreters that we have. There's some that are wonderful. I have to say that there are some that are wonderful, but lately they have new ones, which are great because you're practicing. And I'm cool that you practice while you are in the master hearing. I don't want somebody practicing on a merit hearing, because the merit hearing is a trial. It's where the person is giving the whole testimony. And if you change one word, that will change the whole story, and then your credibility is going to go down. And for example, I speak Spanish, so I can catch when somebody is speaking Spanish that that's not what she said. But what if I didn't speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Like many attorneys won't speak Spanish and have Spanish interpreters. What if, for example, I have a Mandarin case recently? I was like giving the face that that's a good interpreter, because I have no clue what my client is saying. So I can't catch whether that person is changing what the story is. So it's very complicated. And the extreme, like Mr. Early was saying, that requesting documents, the documents don't appear as simple, even if they're close by. Even if they're from Mexico, they're not that simple. I had a case from Nigeria where the only evidence was him, and he was about to be denied, and the luckiest person in some ways, that church got burned because he was a Christian, and it was when all the issues with the Boko Haram and, when the kidnapping of the girls and everything, that church got burned, and it was coverage in all the news with his name. And I was like, at least I can screenshot and bring it over to court, and the asylum was granted. But it was very hard to prove something when you only have a testimony, and most of the cases, that's the only thing that you're gonna get.
Right. Yeah, and that's very unfortunate. That's how, unfortunately, a lot of these cases end up. Man, I could go on for another hour about immigrations, but I mean, I think that it's very, very important that we understand what's happening. But again, Joanna, I really appreciate you coming in and speaking with you. Hopefully you can come in again.
Of course, I will be more than happy to.
Some more about immigration law and kind of what's happening with regards to this such hot topic, but as we spoke about, a very important topic. Right. So again, thank you for coming, and on behalf of myself, Attorney Zulu Ali, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, and Dr. Akil Bashir, thank you for tuning in for Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. Hopefully you'll turn in next week, same time, same channel. Until then, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful weekend.
All right.